On today's DNVR Buffs Live, multiple teams made it personal last year by going after Coach Prime. But this one is different. Let's talk about it right now. Let's go!
Welcome in the Toyota Lounge, driven by your front race Toyota store. Toyota, the official vehicle of DNVR. Oh boy, they done made it personal. Scott Procter is back as well. Welcome back, my friend. Great to have you.
Appreciate you, sir. Good to see you, Jake. Good to see you, RK. How we feeling, fellas?
I feel so fired up, so riled up. But first, what material are those shorts?
Just some drip, I don't really know. I don't know how to explain it other than that. Just some drip, but they feel nice. So.
I think
they look nice too.
The people are being deprived. They can't see them because they are kind of sick.
Appreciate that.
All right. They done made it personal. You've seen the clip by this point. You have the floor, okay?
All right. This one is different.
It is.
This one is very different. Because last year you had, Matt Rule was taking little pot shots in the media in the off season mostly about how Colorado ran their program or built their program. So that was personal, right? The next week, of course, the infamous Jay Norvell starts running his mouth about hats and sunglasses and adults and mamas. And that made it personal. But those were about Coach Prime. And I loved the way the team responded to, hey, you don't talk about my coach like that. But this one is different. This one is the other team's best players going out of their way to call you out. And honestly, they're saying you're bitch made. Legitimately. Mm-hmm. That is what they're saying. They're saying, we are so not scared of you that we can say whatever the hell we want and we don't fear any repercussions. And that is really personal. Like, you got to take that incredibly personal. And you got to think to yourself, am I going to allow someone to talk about me in that way and think that they're going to just coast scot-free with nothing happening to them? And that doesn't mean after the whistle. That doesn't mean, anything like that, anything dirty. That means, are you going to take it upon yourself to go out there and kick some ass? Because these guys are truly not just telling you, but telling the world that you are nothing to fear. And that is different than any comment that anyone can make about a coach. And I cannot wait to see how this team responds. Because I was thinking about this. We've never seen in this era this team come out and play angry. Mm-hmm. We saw them, I think, against TCU is the first game, and that was the game that maybe they brought the fight to the game.
Yes.
And then all the hype came and all the media attention came, and then everyone else started making it their Super Bowl, and everyone else started bringing the fight to the game, and CU's had to respond to that. That has to end this week. This has to be the week that these guys go out there and they bring the punch. They bring the fight. This is the one that you have to go out there and you have to play mad.
This is coming after a loss, too. They lost this game last year. To be talking like this after that, and then to use the word murder after what they tried to do to Travis Hunter last season. Bold, I don't even think describes what they tried to do with this thing.
There should just be no shortage of motivation for the Colorado Buffalo football team this weekend. Coming off last week's embarrassment at the hands of one of your rivals, And then to hear, I'm sure most of them just got on Twitter like they normally do or social media this week yesterday and saw that foolishness. I would think that Coach Prime and the CU coaching staff is playing that for the entire team at some point before things kick off on Saturday night at 5:30 Mountain Time. Because
go ahead.
I just think that's the most disrespectful trash talk that we've heard hurled at this program. And again, I can't imagine. Obviously, this was something that was said about a month ago at CSU's Media Day. I think that's probably important to point out. Nonetheless, they said what they said.
Oh, yeah.
And they meant that. And I think they probably wouldn't have said that this week. But again, they said it. They knew it was going to be on camera. They knew at one point people were going to hear what they had to say. And from a certain perspective, I understand where Tory and what he said was coming from, because that boy, he's cold. Like, he's an unimpeachable, really good receiver, a future NFL player. But BFN, his words kind of struck me a little differently. I'm not gonna lie. Again, to use the word murder, to say the old adage, we'll see how far clicks get them.
Yeah, we see how far Instagram followers get them.
Correct. Thank you. Followers. That was the right word. Thank you for. But that's just something that I think this team is going to internalize and use as fuel on Saturday, because they need to.
Yeah, a couple people in the comments, I guess, didn't see the video. I don't think we have that one ready to be played, but essentially it's Tory Horton and Brayden Fowler-Nicolosi, the two faces of Colorado State football, which, again, I feel is notable. This isn't like some backup offensive lineman who just like has an axe to grind. This is the faces of their program stepping up and talking crazy about this game. And I won't fully... I think it's absolutely wild to say the things that BFN said. Again, Tory, I think he's kind of saying, like, we felt like we let him off the hook. That's fine.
Right.
And I honestly, like, fully respect someone coming out and saying, like, man, we felt like we had him and we let him off the hook. Like, I think he's right.
Yeah.
If that's what he's meaning. Mm-hmm. And then BFN starts running his mouth, and it's like, does this guy remember that they lost? Like, legitimately, that was my question watching it. And if you showed that to, like, I used to use this this metaphor all the time on the Broncos podcast. If an alien came down today to Earth and didn't know anything about anything but understood football, and you showed him that clip, he would 100% tell you, if you asked him to predict the score of last year's game, he would be like, I don't know, 41-20 Colorado State. This man's out here talking about you got to line up 11 against our 11. We'll find out who wants it more. So does that mean CU wanted it more last year? He's saying we'll see how far followers get them. Does that mean that CU's followers got them 8 more points than CSU last year? Like, that is absolutely wild to me, and I am so genuinely happy that surfaced this week, because I think that CU needed this little kick in the pants. I think that they needed, again, to feel like this is not personal from a coach versus coach level. This is personal from you versus them, between the lines, once the whistle blows.
And also from a rivalry perspective too, right? Because so many of these guys on this Colorado roster are going to see the field on Saturday. This is their first year, in this rivalry, playing in this rivalry and knowing what it's about. So it's one thing for you to hear from your older teammates who've been here longer, what this rivalry means, but this just adds a whole different component to it, where it makes it very real, for some of those newer guys who are going to be counted on this weekend to play with a little bit extra fire.
Well, to that point, Scott, we had Chidozie Nwankwo down there in the bar when we were talking to him, and we asked him about that. What was your reaction when you saw Travis take that hit in that Colorado State game? And he was talking about how pissed off he was seeing that when he was on Houston's roster in a different conference at that point, playing for a different team, how much that pissed him off. I don't think Colorado State understands that this team really does not like, Colorado does not like them. And it has nothing to do with the history. It's because it's personal, because of that hit. And these guys who are coming in, they may not have played in this rivalry before. They are fired up because they saw one of their brothers get cheap shotted last year, taken out of the game, lose 3 games of his season, one of the best players in the country, and they're going to be fired the F up for it.
I agree.
Facts.
We have the clips ready, Alyssa?
It's just
I sent you the CSU one and Buffs assignments, but
No worries. Yeah, man, this is twofold now, and I said it before the season, or at least before last week. I can't remember, but I said like I actually think that Colorado State means a little bit more to these players than Nebraska did.
100%.
No doubt.
And that's just the way that kind of things shook out last year. CU mopped Nebraska, and there wasn't much other than like the pregame standing
Shador
on the Buffalo with the Shador, all that, but like there wasn't a lot of crosstalk afterwards. Whereas CSU last year, obviously a much better football game, and you add in the Travis situation, and then what happens is there's like a back and forth that lasted essentially for the rest of that week because of the whole, Travis versus Henry Blackburn, and should Henry Blackburn be suspended? And there's all of, Henry Blackburn's past being brought up, and there's this, that, and the other kind of like circulating. And so like that kind of ruminated and stayed around much longer. And not to mention it affected CU much longer because they were without their guy for the next 3 games.
Yeah.
And then, with a hampered version of him after that. And then they go and start talking like this.
All right, so here's the clip from Tory Horton and BFN from CSU Media Day talking about CU.
All right, well, no sound
No
on
sound.
that. But that just reminded me, we could hear it.
Oh, yeah.
A rude awakening.
It kind of almost sounded like he was trying to hype himself up.
Yeah.
Like he was searching for words to like get him and his team riled up, which I get, but that's just not the way to go about it. And I see somebody in the comments talking about, so y'all want the Buffs to come out emotional and get penalties. No. But what that video and those sound bites should do is fuel this team to come out from the opening snap ready to go, because that's what they haven't been the last 2 weeks. They came out sleepwalking in each of the first 2 games. They were able to overcome a halftime deficit in week 1, but that's just not the case, obviously, in week 2 against a much better team. You're not going to be able to afford, at least ideally, this weekend to come out slow for the 3rd consecutive week. So hopefully, if you're the guys in that locker room, that CU locker room, these words are going to propel this team to come out from the opening quarter, whether you start on offense or on defense, ready to go. Because the start to last week was absolutely dreadful. I mean, to me, Buffs took the ball first or got the ball first, however the coin toss went. And after that first drive, I didn't feel good about their chances of winning that game. I mean, the first play is up front. There was a miscommunication on the right side of the offensive line, and you allow a tip pass on a screen pass.
Yep.
The second play,
Drop.
I don't know what the play call was, but Shador, I mean, a long throw for a screen pass out to Lejante that he drops.
Yep.
And then
Made the throw.
Made the throw, but again,
Yeah.
I just don't like the idea behind the play call. And obviously, it wasn't executed properly. And obviously, the third play, you get sacked. So again, it just has to come down to a mindset. And hopefully, again, those words, unlock something from quarter 1, from play 1 in these Buffs.
Well, and credit where it's due. You can play emotionally without playing undisciplined.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
Nebraska, I think, is a perfect example of that.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Last week, they came out absolutely as fired up as you can be as a football team. And you can feel that stuff when you're in a stadium immediately when one team is just more fired up than the other. And so again, that doesn't mean go out and act crazy or do anything wild. It just means go out there and bring the energy, throw the first punch. Do not stand in the ring and let them come to you. You got to go and be the aggressor.
We'll play Coach Prime's response to the CSU words in his coach's show.
And we'll try to get the sound. Okay, we'll try to get the sound on the full clip for you on the other side of this break.
Shout out to our great friends over at Game Time, the best app, website to go and buy your tickets. I mean, if you want to get in the door for this weekend's game in Fort Collins, Game Time is the place to go. You can see right there with their Game Time picks exactly what you're getting, what seats you want, the view from it, best deals, all that good stuff. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use the code BUFFS, BUFFS, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code BUFFS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time.
Let's go.
By the way, a lot of tickets available on Game Time. Just saying.
Interesting.
Snatch them up, Buff Nation.
A lot of
BUFFS.
tickets. The prices are going down. You now get in for like $150, which is as low as I've seen. So get over to Game Time.
$130 if you use the code BUFFS.
There you go. And also shout out to our friends over at Breckenridge Brewery. When you're getting ready this weekend for the game, crack open one of those sweet new juice drop IPAs with the Colorado packaging on the outside. Those things are awesome. You got to love it. And also, they have the new West Coast style IPA, the Ridge Runner. So, whatever you love, whatever you like, you want some craft beers, make sure you hit up our friends over at Breckenridge Brewery, the official craft beer of DNVR.
All right. Do we have CSU sound? Yes. CSU sound. Here's them talking crazy.
We owe them one. And that's just something that's been sitting on everybody, mind since we came back from break. We owe them. And we walked away from that game, as, we kind of left it all on the field. I don't feel like we left it all on the field because we should have murdered them guys. And, they came out with that attitude as they were on top of the world. And this ain't no Cinderella story, so we coming for revenge.
Yeah, they came out with that attitude and thought it was going to be a cakewalk. They saw the reports, 27.5 points or whatever it was. And they got a rude awakening real quick. And I think it goes to show that the hype, the media train, all that, it only gets you so far. At the end of the day, you have to line up 11 guys against our 11 guys, and we'll find out who wants it more. And we'll see how far Instagram followers gets them.
We all came here to play football. So at the end of the day, the millions of followers and fans that they then produced and got and celebrities that then jumped on their side because of who Deion Sanders is, at the end of the day, Deion Sanders ain't playing. It's those players playing. So those players better back up on what they speak about.
There it is. Coach Prime responded.
Who needs to back up who they're speaking? What? Back up what exactly?
You would it's absent-minded. What's going on right there? Here's Coach Prime's response on his coach's show with Mark Johnson earlier today.
I actually haven't seen this yet.
Your side of things when somebody goes out and talks about.
Yes, it makes it personal again.
Yeah.
It makes you think like, oh, okay, because you analyze it as an adult. Kids don't. They just get mad. They want to go at it. You analyze it as an adult, and you say, okay, I see why you said that. I see why you said that, and you know what's behind it. But you try to understand that those are kids.
Yes,
Don't do it. Don't
Right.
do it. Like you want to do it. You know how somebody. They got the ropes out there, and you double dutching. You want to jump in. You're like, no, don't do it.
Yeah.
And they just sitting out there swinging the ropes, like, don't do it. So I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna take that bait. That's too easy. That's too easy.
Did you play that for your team? So they say.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. They wanted to. They asked me at breakfast. Coach, you saw what they said?
Right.
Yeah, dog. I did.
Now on the flip side of
Needs
that,
need to be fixed. Dog.
you're very, I would think.
All right, sorry about the audio there. That's out of our control, but
Yeah, they need to crank that gain up.
yeah, they need to crank it. Coach Prime ain't falling for it.
Yeah, well, and it's, in my opinion, not his place. Like, this is players talking about players. So if anyone's going to respond to it, it's a player. But the most important part of that, by far to me, is what Coach said about the players this morning. They came to breakfast because I didn't see this until like 11 o'clock last night. Is that when you saw it?
Yep.
They came to breakfast and said, Coach, did you see this? And he said, yeah. And they wanted the whole team to see it. So that was viewed by every player on the team. And that, to me, that was what was most important. That's what I needed to know. These guys see it and hear it, and they can respond to it between the lines on Saturday.
Yep. All right, let's look forward to the actual game now. Lots of things need to be changed. Coach Prime mentioned it. We've kind of, we talked about it in the post game on Saturday night. Things just kind of have to change moving forward if this team wants to reach the goals that they've set out for themselves. So we'll start with you, Scott, because Arcane and I have already talked a lot about this.
Yeah.
Whatever direction you want to go, scheme-wise, run game, pass rush, offensive line, what needs to be fixed the most, and what are your predictions for those fixes on Saturday?
Yeah, first off, to me, anybody who's watched Colorado over the last 2 weeks knows that their lack of a running game is detrimental to the success of this team. That's what first and foremost has to change. To me, it starts with Pat Shurmur. You're in control of this offense in terms of what's being called, assuming Shedeur doesn't, see something out there on the field and audible and whatnot. There needs to be, from first play, from the opening offensive drive, whatever you're scripting, your first 10 or 15 plays or so, there needs to be an obvious effort to get creative in the run game. Whether it be inside, whether it be using your receivers, whether it be using LeJontay Wester, Jimmy Horn Jr., or even Draylen Miller, who we saw a little bit in week 1, to get creative in the run game and keep the CSU defense off balance, because the predictability is going to get Shedeur hurt. It's going to force him to make mistakes, uncharacteristic mistakes, like we saw in week 2, like the pick 6. So to me, that's the biggest thing. And obviously the loss of Dallin Hayden for at least this week due to injury sucks, because to me, he should have been starting at least after week 1 for the Nebraska game, after what we saw from him in spurts in week 1. But he's obviously no longer in the picture for at least this week. Charlie's probably going to get the start because, let the coaches tell it, he's the best pass blocking running back, and there's a place for that. You need a back like Charlie who can do that. But I need to see Isaiah Gustav. I need to see Michael Welch early and often. One of those two guys, if not both of those guys, have to be the story of this game when it's over. People have to walk away from this game saying, okay, at least they tried to run the football. Whether it was successful or not, maybe you run the ball 22 times and you still only average 3.2 yards per carry. But 22 rush attempts would be a night and day difference from what we saw in the first 2 games. I believe the first 2 games, Colorado running backs have 25 rushing attempts.
Total.
I believe Dallin has 14. Charlie has 9. I believe Augusta has 2, and I think that equals 25. Y'all can math check me if y'all want. Northern Colorado ran the ball 23 times from their running backs last week alone against Colorado State. So that's 23 rushing attempts versus 25 over 2 weeks. And obviously Texas did whatever they wanted to do in week 1 against CSU. They ran for about 190 yards. So obviously this CSU defense is susceptible to the run, at least if you commit to it. So to me, that's what I'm watching. Pat Shurmur, what he does in terms of his play calling, especially early, because again, we talked about it earlier, they need to get off to a fast start. They cannot afford another slow start on the road. They cannot afford to let this road crowd, the CSU crowd, get into the game early. So that's what I need to see first and foremost, because we know what Shedeur is capable of. We know what these receivers are capable of. I've been impressed by the defense. That might be an unpopular take, but last week, or when I was on the show after the NDSU game, I said that was one of my biggest takeaways. Shutting out NDSU in the second half until the final 2 minutes and 19 seconds was impressive to me. Even last week in spurts, the defense was impressive to me. It was,
and they shut them out in the second half
it was
again?
It was an ugly start, but shutting them out in the second half, only giving up 21 points, forcing Nebraska to be 3 for 12 on third down, that's impressive to me. That's something you can work on. But nothing is going to change about this team until there's 1, a commitment to the run game, and 2, showing that from a personnel perspective, both up front and the guys who are carrying the football, that they can do it. So that's what I need to see, and that's the biggest change.
I love it. And, you talked about this off the top, and it's a drum that I've been beating all week, which is creativity in the run game.
Yeah.
You can run the ball just to run it and, run your basic stuff. Or, to me, not to get too deep into it, but maybe I will, the thing that teams are going to fear the most from you when they line up against you on offense is your speed.
Yeah.
You have speed everywhere. It's Jimmy, it's LeJohntay, it's Travis. Your east-west ability is terrifying for opposing defenses.
Have to take advantage of that.
So take advantage of that by, one, getting guys the ball going east and west, run some jet sweeps, some reverse, whatever that may, and then bring those guys in motion to get those linebackers moving and creating holes before you even actually have to move anybody physically. You can move them with their eyes. And so to me, that has to be a huge, huge emphasis. If you're actually committed to running the football, you got to start there. Stretch this defense east and west to create lanes for these guys. And I would love to see Michael Welch get the ball and get ahead of steam and run for 6 yards before anyone gets a hand on him and see what happens after that. These are the things that could happen. And I know I mentioned it earlier in the week, but I'll mention it again. You can steal stuff. Tune into the Los Angeles Rams. Tune into the San Francisco 49ers. Watch that and
the
see
Miami
what
Dolphins. How creative they get.
Yeah, and that's
KC.
all from the same
doubt.
Mike Shanahan tree.
No doubt.
It's watch that stuff and say, that looks fantastic. That looks great. Debo's got this team. These linebackers running all over the place before they just hand it off to Jordan Mason, and all of a sudden he's breaking big runs. It sounds almost elementary, but watching football and stealing stuff from other teams that are doing it well is totally fair game.
The best coaches in the NFL talk about it all the time.
Yep.
Copycat
Lions, another one. Lions are even more
100%.
just we're going to... But that's also speed,
Yep.
Using the fear of speed as a weapon.
I'll take it to the offensive line then. Things have to be shuffled up, and I think that we've been seeing that. We haven't seen it personally in practice, but people have thrown up the screenshots and stuff. They are moving guys around. It feels wide open to me from the interior standpoint, and Jordan Seaton feels like the only player who's truly safe on the starting offensive line and keeping his starting position.
Yeah.
So I think there'll at least be 2 to 3 new guys, in new positions at least, maybe some new players in that starting lineup. But I don't know if Tyler Johnson's going to get a shot or not. Coach Prime didn't really give a vote of confidence when it came to him on Tuesday.
Didn't sound like a confident answer from him on
but
Tyler.
Kareem Harden was working with the first team. They still have Phil Houston, who could play tackle. Tyler Brown, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets moved back to guard. Yakari Walker's in the conversation for center. I mean, there's a lot of things that they could do, and they've been cross-training since, middle of August at worst, if not going back to May, April, after the spring game and spring practices were over. When the players were doing player-led practices, they were you saw Khalil at left tackle. You saw all these guys just move around. So it's time to go into that bag, man.
Yep. Also, I just, going back to play design, that, I don't even know the name for this, but the play that they were using with Jimmy and LeJohntay against North Dakota State, bringing them across behind the offensive line in motion.
Orbit motion.
Well, not behind the whole play, but just behind, when they're the one that almost should have been a touchdown to Jimmy. They hit it 2 other times in the game. They got first downs on it.
Gotcha.
But that's going to be in play again this week. And it should work really, really well. That should be a money play for you. It's just a little RPO that gets a ball to the flat there, or it doesn't even have to be RPO. It can be designed to pull that and flip it out to the flat, and you can have stuff off the back of it. You can build around that play that I thought was incredibly successful for you against NDSU.
Yep.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, the interior of the offensive lineman. Obviously, I like Hank Zelinskis, and I was high on him coming to the season. But after last week, I think the film is out on him in terms of him being an issue at the point of attack, getting pushed back into Shador's lap when they're trying to throw the football. I'm not opposed to seeing Yakari Walker, the UConn transfer at center, get a chance here this week. And obviously, you mentioned it, Jake, as well. There probably will be, based on what Coach Prime said, this week in terms of shuffling on the offensive line. I would like to see Tyler Brown go back to guard. I think he's a true guard. I think that's where he belongs. I don't know if that, moves Benson back out to tackle, or if you give, Phillip Houston his first try at tackle, but something needs to change. It sounds like something will, but obviously through 2 weeks, especially after what we saw last week against granted, a really good defensive front that Nebraska has. And I don't know if, CU's going to see a better defensive front the rest of the year. But nonetheless, those were some glaring issues that just need to be addressed. And again, that offensive line, this offense, football, you need it. You need to have trust in those guys, both in the run game, both in pass protection, and it's just not there right now. I see somebody mention, Tyler Brown even at center. Again, I'm not opposed to that either, because I think Tyler Brown is best on the interior. I think putting him out on the edge on the perimeter was a mistake, just because he doesn't have a ton of experience there, at least game experience. So that's what I would like to see. But again, something has to change. And again, you might not get the answer this week, but we need to see some attempts at some different things, some experiments for sure.
Absolutely. And I'm in on shuffling, and I'm definitely in on getting Tyler Brown back into the interior. My only thing is, like, if you're going to shuffle, it better work.
Oh yeah.
Because you are now resetting the clock on the offensive line meshing. And that's a little bit of a scary thing to do. You went through half of camp with one thing. You didn't like that. You flipped it.
Yeah.
You felt comfortable with it. Now you're flipping it again. And so, like, every time you do this, you're kind of resetting the clock on that group meshing. Mm-hmm. But if you nail the combination, then, you'll be praised for it. If it doesn't get any better, then it starts to look questionable.
Yep.
To go back to the run game, we got to hit this break, by the way, but to go back to the run game real quick, I got to see Draylon Miller more. I got to see more design plays for him. He needs to have a package of like 4 to 5 plays that are just designed to get him out in space, get him the ball quickly. I don't care if it's a handoff, if it's a screen, if it's an RPO, whatever it is. He's got to have a whole package. Shout out to our friends over at UC Health and their Ready, Set, Co challenge. With Coach Prime as the Chief Motivation Officer, he wants to encourage you to help you and other Coloradans be your healthiest selves for this Ready, Set, Co challenge. Lots of things we could do. Eating better, taking more personal time out of your day, whatever it is. You can sign up for the challenge over at uchealth.org/ReadySetCo. If you want to join UC Health's Ready, Set, Co challenge, the link is in the show notes. Or again, www.uchealth.org/ReadySetCo.
Also, shout out to Toyota. You know what I'm going to say. I love my Toyota. The absolute best cars on the road, in my opinion, and the best people are running these Toyota stores, especially on the Front Range, man. Every time I got to go in there, get my oil changed or whatever it may be, I just love working with the staff over there at our Front Range Toyota stores. Always gracious. A lot of them know DNVR and love DNVR. They're excited about the partnership here, and one of our biggest partnerships ever. So make sure that if you're looking for a new car, you consider Toyota and visit a Front Range Toyota store near you, including AutoNation, Toyota, Arapahoe, and Centennial, Corbin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota is a proud partner of CU Athletics and the official vehicle of DNVR.
You guys have any other takes, what you want to see change, predictions for personnel or anything before we move on?
Go ahead.
Something I want to see, kind of piggybacking off your Draylon idea of getting him more touches and being more creative. I feel the same way about LeJontay Wester. I feel like he hasn't been showcased enough, and it's difficult when you're under pressure like Shedeur is often to get him the ball, especially over the middle of the field. But there has to be more creativity with getting your best playmakers the ball. I'm looking at it right now. LeJontay has 36 career rushing attempts. That's not a super small sample over the last 4 years. He averages 6 yards a carry. So, again, whether it's, your jet sweep, and that also takes onus off your offensive line. If you can get him moving with speed on the perimeter.
Completely.
We've already seen, at least in week 1, that this receiving core, obviously they're touted for their playmaking ability, but Omarion Miller and some other guys, they can block too on the perimeter.
Yeah.
I think that's something that needs to be tapped into as well. Again, I would throw Jimmy into that mix as well in terms of using their speed on the perimeter to, manufacture some type of run game, because it's not always going to look the same. You're not always going to be able to just run it up through the middle of a defense for, the ideal 4 or 5 yards of pop that you want. But getting your speedsters who are obviously dynamic with the ball in their hands on the perimeter is something that I want to see, and I think that's something that needs to be implemented into this offense this weekend.
Yep. Someone also mentioned, just in terms of like packages to get these guys involved, Draylon in Wildcat. I said that last week.
Sure.
Right, you did.
I love that.
Sure.
And you could have a package with Draylon and Wildcat. You can have Jimmy on one side, LeJontay on the other. Bring one of them in motion. Like, you can do all sorts of crazy
Play
stuff.
11 on 11.
Yeah, let's just please tap into some creativity.
Yep. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing extra offensive linemen on the field too.
Yeah.
I mean, if Tyler Johnson, whatever his situation is, I'm sure you could throw him in for 3 plays and say, that's the guy you block.
Yeah, Maul.
Right. Just go forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. Moving on. Shilo Sanders is, of course, in the news again. And it's, again, the media coverage of CU and just it's not a two-way street a lot of the times. His pregame, his coin toss comments to Nebraska surfaced by Nebraska's creative crew.
Yep.
And, I mean, Scott, you probably know more than us, but that's football, man. Like, the stuff said behind, like, between the lines is crazy.
100%. It is I mean, I'm not going to act like I'm surprised that was publicized after the fact, after the game, assuming that knowing that Shilo was the subject of the video, because we saw last year with the Oregon thing, him talking trash before that beat down out in Eugene. But this is who Shilo Sanders is. This is who football players in general are when you're about to kick off an intense game, let alone a rivalry game, let alone you're in a stadium surrounded by red, hearing all types of crazy expletives and whatever else is hurled at you from Nebraska students and Nebraska fans inside, Memorial Stadium. So, I mean, go ahead.
This one's not even notable. Like, the Oregon one, at least, was like a little bit out of pocket.
Right.
Saying we're gonna roll your asses.
Yeah.
That's news.
That's common coin toss.
Yeah, man.
Talk.
I'm convinced that anyone who hey, if you want to dunk on him for it, that's fine. You know what I mean? Like, yes, he said that, and then they went out and they got pushed around.
Yeah.
So you want to dunk on it, but like, there's like pearl clutching going on over this, where it's like, I'm convinced. Not only did you not play football, but you've never played in a competitive sporting event ever.
Right.
Like, I'm talking, I've played in rec league basketball games with more wild talk than that.
Yeah. There's just no way they expect these players at a coin toss, again, of a rivalry game nonetheless, to be like, hey, man, good luck out there, man. I hope you and your team come out healthy and this is a, fun, respectful game. It's just not happening. It's the opposite of that, actually, matter of fact.
Right, and then I posted the CSU clip, and I said, the funny thing is that this is how people act like CU players talk in the media, but they never do. And then a bunch of people are responding to me with the Shilo clip, and I'm like, that is not someone talking in the media.
Yeah.
That's talking on the football field.
Apples and oranges.
And the last thing I want to say on this is, with every other team in America, there is an unwritten rule that you just don't share this stuff. Like, I've never seen one of these clips shared about anyone else, and I know for a fact, because I've been on these fields, even just talking about NFL football fields or Division I football fields as my job, this stuff is being said every game, and you don't see it come out every time one team beats another team, because there's an unwritten rule that you don't share the wild stuff that's being said between the lines. For whatever reason, that gets thrown out when it's CU. And obviously it comes out from Oregon and it comes out from Nebraska. But like, this stuff is being said every single game.
Yeah.
Across all levels of football, every single week, in every single city.
Yep. At all levels too. I mean, high school all the way up to the NFL.
Well, and Bucky even said it today, and he
He did.
alluded to the unwritten rule that I'm talking about, which is like, he said he has stuff that could probably get coaches fired.
Yeah.
But he's
Sure.
not going to share it. And so I just hope, and maybe he's above it. I'm not. I hope that the next time this happens, when CU wins a game, that Bucky releases the footage.
I'd love to see it. There is some news when it comes to conference realignment. The Pac-12 emerges like a zombie out of a graveyard, just punching through the ground. I'm not dead yet. They're expected to add Boise State, San Diego State, Colorado State, and who's the other one I'm forgetting? Fresno
It
State.
definitely ends in state. That's all I know.
Thank you, Alyssa.
The state conference.
So it's them, Washington State, and Oregon State as it stands right now. And they're getting the band back together. Well, not completely, I guess.
Starting a new band.
They're trying to, yes, for 2026 and beyond.
Yeah, great rebrand by the Mountain West.
It's crazy, bro.
This is no different than the Mountain West adding
Nope.
Oregon State and Washington State and calling it the Mountain West. But smart job to send 4 the other way than bring 2 this way.
Yeah.
Because it looks better. I don't have a lot of opinions on this other than it's still a long way from being anything that will be respected or legitimate.
Yeah.
What I will say is from a CSU perspective, not that I can give that perspective, but if I were to, it would be like this is a move they had to make, right?
Right.
Definitely.
It gets you one step closer. Even though it's nothing yet, you're on a sinking ship. There's another boat. It might be a boat with a hole in it, but it's still above water. Jump on that and see if you can figure out a way to get to dry land.
And I think I saw that if the Pac-12 is able to add 2 more teams and get to 8, they will hold on to their automatic qualifier for the CFP.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is insane.
We're going to need to reevaluate that. Unless they can get, like, by the way, did you see the expansion candidates? I had to laugh.
I saw a list of like 8 or so schools.
It had Cal and Stanford on it.
It's ridiculous, bro.
Like, we're literally living in the upside down where Cal, and I wouldn't doubt that Cal and Stanford might consider it.
Right?
They would have to at least consider.
Once you got to
You'd
travel
have- yeah.
to Maryland for a game and you fly all the way to College Park, you might, or I guess they're in the Big Ten now. You got to fly to Duke
Yeah.
for a game. You might reconsider, man, it would be really nice to just have to go up to Corvallis. So, look, I think I'm in the minority of CU fans when I say I like the Rocky Mountain Showdown. To me, it's fun. I enjoy the college rivalry aspect of it. I love the way the students really get into it because if you went to a Colorado high school, there's a good chance that half of your friends went to CU and half of your friends went to CSU. So now you guys are butting heads. Like, to me, that's fun. And also, history tells us CU at the very least is going to win 3 out of every 4 times.
Right.
The other side of it, though, is, well, and let me just say, because of that, I think this is a good move. It gets us closer to CU at least having a little bit more reason to play it like a Utah BYU situation.
Right.
At least before they were both in the same conference.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
The other side of it for CU fans, just going, to share that is like, would we be better off just playing Utah State because it's not their Super Bowl? Mm-hmm. And you're not having the team and the fan base get so up for the game, and I understand that as well. As much as CSU fans don't want to admit it, it is absolutely charity for CU to be playing them in this game.
Yep.
For example, did you see they just announced today that they've got a deal to like put a logo on the 50-yard line this week. Why do you think they're getting that deal?
Because they're about to be in front of
10
11 million people.
Exactly. Who's bringing those people?
Coach Prime in Colorado.
And Coach Prime, look, you brought it up slickly. If you peeped it this week, he was like, "I'm glad that their players get to play on national TV in front of a lot of people." And that's something that people like to overlook, at least when it comes to this rivalry. But there are a lot of eyes being brought to the state of Colorado and their 2 major football programs, and I think most people can discern that that's largely due to Coach Prime.
Yeah, so just to tie a bow on it, like, it at least gives a little more reason, because a lot of people have shared this feedback with the athletic program for years and years and years of like, why are we playing this game? It at least gives a little more reason to revisit keeping this rivalry going, to say, okay, well, no one's going to, talk about you playing against a G5 opponent if the Pac-12 can actually get this thing back to up and running, and then CSU becomes a quote-unquote Power 5 team.
Nope. All right, let's take a final break, and then we'll get to your questions. Make sure you drop them in the chat. Hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel. Shout out Bet365. My favorite book. I feel like it's built for football season, especially with the early money line payouts. You take a team on the money line, they get up by 17 or more. Doesn't matter what happens after that. They're just going to cash out your bet. You win, even if the other team comes back and you would lose at other books, not at Bet365. When you sign up, make sure you use the code DNVR365. Deposit $10, and you're in with the bet and get offer. All you have to do at that point, place a bet of $5 or more on anything. As soon as that bet clears, whether it hits or misses, you'll get $200 in bonus bets directly into your account. You must be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
Also, shout out to Circle K.
The homies.
Circle K, we need you.
Oh, help, please.
There's a big old vacancy right across the street from us here at DNVR, and it is tailor-made, just like Bet365 is tailor-made for football season. That vacant lot is tailor-made for Circle K to come in here. Jake and I needed some caffeine before the show. We had to walk like 3 blocks. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Both ways. That's 6 blocks.
Shoot, man. I know.
But we could have just walked to Circle K right across the street if you guys come. And that's what we want, because Circle K is the best when it comes to snacks and gas. And you can get discounts from Circle K when you join the Inner Circle Rewards program. And you can do so by going to www.circlek.com/inner-circle for more information, or check out the QR code. But look at that, 79 cents.
Sheesh.
Any size Polar Pops.
Great deal.
It's a beautiful thing.
All right, let's get to the chat. What do we got today? LA11. How long is TC out, and what's the status on Block Bully? I do not have any idea about TC, Tory and Carter. Block Bully, I don't know. On the coach's show today, Coach Prime mentioned he was out, but I think he was talking in the context of Nebraska and Shador leaving the field and all that again. But I couldn't tell if he was saying he was out for this week or not. So truthfully, I don't really know. I didn't know what to make of it.
Yeah, I mean, based off what Coach Prime said, would have been Tuesday, I believe that was.
Yeah.
I mean, he said that he was kind of like praying, which doesn't.
But then he also said, I like to see one good practice from the players before we let them on the field.
He did say that. So that's what it'll count on.
Yeah.
Honestly, Chidozie is obviously a huge part of his defense. He's probably been the best defensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's a 50-50, I mean, Colorado should not need Chidozie Nwankwo
I'd hope.
to play a good defensive game and get a win on Saturday. Again, if it's close to 50-50, give him another week to rest up and come back 100% for the Pac-12 slate.
The only thing is that
the Big 12 slate.
the only thing is that if TC's also out, that creates a little bit more of a need for your interior defensive line. But
I hear you on that.
Big Game Quinn Barnes, Shane Cokes,
Amari
McNeil. I mean, you have depth.
You have depth.
It's a beautiful thing.
And they've
but
been
you actually
rotating
have depth.
that interior defensive line quite a bit. I've seen a lot of guys in there in those 2 interior positions. So, again.
Next, Truth Talks.
By the way, we'll have obviously more information on this tomorrow, pregame show with Unc.
Yep.
Which is set for around 1 o'clock. So
Yes.
it's obviously always fluid on these travel days for the team, but we're thinking for 1 o'clock tomorrow for the pregame show.
Truth Talk says the anger and extra motivation is fine, but none of it overrides play calling and execution. Both teams are mad. Which team is going to play better and execute? That is the story of the game.
Absolutely. But also, there is something to the energy, and I agree. You do, at a certain point, have to settle in. And they have, in both games so far, actually settled in. Unfortunately, last week, by the time CU found their level and figured out how to match the energy and get into the game was already over. So go out there and throw the first punch.
Well said.
Did I cut you off?
I don't know.
That's what the chat's saying, man. I don't know.
I'm sorry. It's not on purpose.
Pushing Peace asks, is Tory Horton good to go or no? We're not going to get any more information on that other than what we got on Monday, I believe. So
I was surprised when I first saw that video come out of them talking crazy.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, okay, he's definitely playing.
yeah.
And then it comes out that was from like CSU Media Day or whatever a month or so ago. So still no kind of new information on that front. We'll see. I think he probably seeing that video, I know he wants to play really, really bad.
Yeah.
But you obviously don't want to jeopardize your NFL future for a rivalry game.
I think he's going to play for sure, but I think he'll be limited.
Okay.
What's up, Ivan? What do you guys anticipate will be the split on offense this week? Pass versus run, 70-30, 60-40, anything less than 30 will make this game tough, in my opinion.
I don't know.
Well, I think
70-30 would be an improvement.
again, I was looking at it today. I think Shador has 72 pass attempts through 2 games. Buffs running backs have 25 rush attempts. So pretty much it's like 75-25,
Yeah.
roughly, through 2 games. It's got to be closer to 60-40. It's never going to be more run than pass with Shador Sanders as your quarterback and those weapons on the outside, but it has to be closer to a 65-35. And again, especially early on, first quarter, that has to be an emphasis coming out. Running the ball, establishing a creative run game with multiple guys touching the ball in the run game. That has to be the emphasis out the gate.
Shador passed the ball.
Shout out to Alyssa, who's playing whack-a-mole over there.
She is. Shador threw the ball 38 times. Staub had 2 attempts. This is last week. Shador was credited with 8 rushing attempts. I don't think he had a true rush or scramble. Those must have been
He at
him.
least had 1 on the target that he got hit on. It was a scramble.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
But he was sacked 6 times, so that's
Right.
at least maybe
Yep.
1 or 2. And then Staub was also credited with 3 rushing attempts. Was he designed on those? I doubt it.
No.
So that's 51 pass plays to 11 rushing attempts. So it's 5. That's 5-1.
Yeah.
That was last week's ratio.
So, yeah, that's...
Can't happen. Can't continue to happen.
But also, there's also going to be... It's going to get extra exacerbated when you're down 21-0 in the blink of an eye.
Yep.
But at the same time, I think they were trying in the latter parts of the game to just see if they could get something going. That's when Talon Hayden gets hurt. It's just like,
Yep.
man,
What's up, Chico?
run out of the pistol. First play of the game.
Shout out Big Dart Chico in the comments. Jay asks, guys, aren't we falling for the trap again? Last year, Cheap Shot U got us overly hyped. We played with too much emotion, no discipline, and they took us to overtime. Stay CU.
Say cool.
Oh, cool.
I don't think that's actually what happened last year.
I don't think so either.
I think what happened last year is CU was riding high. Game day's there. They're undefeated. They just came off a rivalry win, and CSU started talking. And sure, did they get hype? Yes. But it was almost like, oh, we're going to win by 50 now instead of 30.
Yeah.
And they just weren't ready for what this game usually is, which is a dogfight against a team who wants to beat you really, really bad. And that's why, like, as much as I'm interested in us going out there and running the ball and doing certain things and taking care of business in a big way, I'm also just like, you don't ask for style points in this. You don't ask for anything in rivalry games. You just have to get out of there with a win somehow, some way. And then, like, the whole season kind of, like, opens up. Like, the horizon just opens up, and it's like, okay, now we can start to figure out, like, what we need to change and who we need to be as a football team.
Yes.
To me, right now is not the time to be, like, concerned about how it happens. Just get it. I think we all agree that running the ball and having a successful run game is conducive to getting that dub. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people talking about how many points, this, that, the other. No. Win.
Just win.
Just win.
Next one. Don't do that one. Do the next one. Constance asks, how much emphasis needs to be on establishing a run game prior to Big 12 play? I mean, all the emphasis, I think.
And again, I think this weekend is the perfect opportunity to get it on track. You're playing against a defense that I mentioned earlier is susceptible to the run game through 2 weeks. You're playing against a defense that, from a pure talent perspective, you should be able to be successful against, at least running the football, surely throwing the football as well. But I just think this weekend just provides the perfect opportunity, again, for this running game to get on track, for there to be some confidence instilled in Pat Shurmur from the fan base. And that's what we need to see. Yes, but I agree with you, RK. in rivalry games and games like this one where you need a win, that's the most important thing is a win, however it happens. But there are obviously bigger things that this team needs to address, and I think this weekend is a good opportunity for them to do that.
If you come out of this with a win, you have the second best record you could possibly have through the non-conference schedule.
Yeah. But don't you think, though, if they win, say, by 10 points, Shedeur throws for 400 yards, and they finish the game with 39 rushing yards, don't you think a lot of people still feel like nothing has changed? That, yeah, you won against a team that you should have won against, but now the real game started, and most people still don't feel better about them. Don't you think there's some credence to that?
Yes, there will still be hand-wringing, but hand-wringing at 2-1 is a lot better than meltdown at 1.
Is falling.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
So, again, I'm not excusing any sort of 45 pass game plan.
Sure.
But you got to do what you got to do to get out of there with a win. Hopefully that is a successful running game, making everything much easier, and you almost come with this revelation that you can actually make Shedeur better by running the ball, which I actually think that the coaching staff knows. But I think once you get into the game and the bullets are live, you start to just lean on what you know, and you know that Shedeur can do great things for you. I just hope that maybe there's something that unlocks, there's this offensive line talking about just what we just talked about in the first segment about how this team is calling you soft. They're not scared of you whatsoever. This offensive line should be fired up to go hit someone. You call sweep on first play and tell a pulling guard, go get a hat on Henry Blackburn.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you that opportunity on the first play of the game.
Yeah.
That stuff should get them fired up. That's what this game should be about. But in the end, just win.
Just win. A couple more. Hang in there, Alyssa. William says, what are your bold predictions? Minus CU get 2 or more sacks and defensive turnovers. I've got one I was telling you about when we were walking back from the gas station, and we'll talk about it more tomorrow. I do think that there will be multiple CU interceptions in this game. And I don't the whole point of this was I don't think anyone's tested the CU secondary yet, truly. North Dakota State did a lot of over the middle, underneath stuff. Nebraska, they took a few shots. Somehow Cam was the primary defender on almost all of those deep shots that were taken last weekend. BFN made his thoughts very clear. And I think he's going to have the arrogance to try Travis Hunter, to try Preston Hodge and DJ McKinney on the outside.
He is prone to the turnover. He will get that thing to you if you make him.
Yeah.
He will give it up.
I love it. That would feed families.
It would. Big Teasy, RV footage and show this weekend. Shows, yes. There will be pregame show tomorrow, postgame show on Saturday. No RV this weekend, though.
We might have some exciting RV news next weekend, though.
There you go.
Stay tuned.
What's up, Jacob? Can we expect Will Shepherd to break through this week?
He's going to have the matchup, that's for sure.
Yep.
We saw it last week. That play could almost be spammed.
Throw it up.
Until someone stops it.
Throw it to him.
Yeah,
He's 6'4".
Yeah, just back shoulder him all day. I mean, we saw Shedeur doing it in the open practice.
Yes.
Just spamming that play. If I were them, I would throw it until someone stops it.
Yep. The H family says, serious question, when was the last time a CU running back has scored a touchdown?
Okay. Wow.
I think it just might be Utah, honestly.
Did they score one against Utah?
I'm going to go back and check right now.
I'll tell you what, though. I'm expecting Isaiah Gustav to become a household name after this weekend.
Ooh.
That boy really broke out at the end of his true freshman season last year at Arkansas. Second to last week, he was the SEC Freshman of the Week, rushing for over 100 yards and a touchdown. The following week, he ran for 80 yards and a touchdown against Mizzou. I think in his first extended role this weekend, I like him to make some noise, man. A real tough runner. Our boy Phillip Dukes at On3 said that he reminds him a lot of Dylan Edwards because you get him in space. It's like trying to tackle a hamster, right, in a in a damn phone booth. So, but it's that type of shiftiness, but also in his 6'2" frame that Augusta has. So I'm really excited to see him in a bigger role this weekend. Did you get that answer on that last question?
The answer to the question is in the fourth quarter against Washington State, Savion Wilkerson had a 1-yard run. That's the last time a C running back scored a touchdown. That was the second to last game last year.
All right.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, Dylan did score a touchdown, but it was on a pass. I don't know if we're counting that against Utah. Big Dog Chico in the chat, shout out, said, do you think Travis should travel with Tory Horton all game? It depends on if the defense is prepared to do something like that. I would love it. But I've complained about this before and learned from defensive-minded people that, like, there's a lot to it as a defense because you're essentially giving Travis man coverage, right, no matter where he goes.
Right.
But if someone goes to the other side, like, you got to be able to trust your defense to, like, flip their zones in a way that makes sense rather than just knowing, okay, Travis is always going to be on the left side manned up, and so we just have to guard the rest of the field. I don't know if they feel prepared to do that on the right side or from the slot on the left. Like, I would love it. I don't know for a fact that they feel confident in doing that.
Yep.
I just think that would be a halftime adjustment. He comes out, Tory Horton, looking like how he looked last year in the Rocky Mountain Showdown. I think at halftime that's an adjustment you might make. But I think out the gate, I don't think that's necessary, especially with him still dealing with that groin injury, probably still less than 100%. I don't think that's necessary, at least out the gate. But I don't mind the idea. Again, if he's cooking you in the first quarter, first half, that might be an adjustment you make. And obviously Robert Livingston has shown that he's more than capable of making halftime adjustments. But I don't think we need to do that from snap one.
Yeah, and the other option would be to bracket Tory Horton on one side and let Travis take the 2 1-on-1.
Yeah.
I think they should let Tory prove if he's healthy or not fully first.
And he might not even play.
Yeah, exactly. This was awesome. Thanks for coming down, Scott. Once again, let the people know where they can find you and your work.
Absolutely. Appreciate the invite as always. Appreciate y'all in the chat. And y'all can follow me on Twitter or X at Scott Procter, Procter with an underscore at the end. Got some great stuff coming on the coloradoan.com per usual. We got you locked in here.
We'll be back tomorrow, pregame show around 1 p.m. And then it's game time. See you then.
Let's go Buffs.
Let's go Buffs.
We all silly like the mayor.